Welcome to The Fountain with Ellie Thomas. The fountain is an image that I use in my work often to speak of our multidimensionality, to connect with the life, the living water flowing within us through mind, body, spirit, heart, and all. This show is a place where we explore it all, where we tap into wisdom that has surfaced through pain and joy and the fullness of our journeys. This podcast is a place to come and remember, to sink back into the living water that flows within you and to be guided back to your fountain, your fullness, your wholeness, and how to be with that as we navigate living as divine humans in this wild, wild world and this wild, wild journey. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in together and be refreshed and consoled by the water that wants to flow through. Welcome back to the fountain. It's lovely to be here with you as always. Today I have an episode for you that is an edited version of an Instagram Live that I did this week, talking all about Mother's Day grief and the hidden places it can hang out, how unrecognized it is beyond the universal Instagram posts that people put up talking about the complicatedness of the day. And I also tell the story of why I created grief flows or grief flow ceremonies. The names are interchangeable, and what they are and why they're so powerful and important. Partly because on Sunday, Mother's Day, in the morning at 9 a.m. Central, I am leading a Mother's Day focused grief flow ceremony. And this ceremony is for anyone that's wanting to engage in their grief of any kind right now, but I'm really wanting to create a beautiful place to be with yourself. It is virtual, so with yourself in your own home or your car or your own backyard, where you can begin your day from a place of engagement with whatever is coming up. Maybe you also have lost people and are mourning them or grieving their absence extra on a day like Mother's Day. Maybe you have been going through a fertility journey. Maybe you just have a lot of questions about motherhood for you and what that might look like. And there might be grief in that around, will this happen for me or won't it? Or is this something that's going to be part of my life? Maybe I thought it would and now maybe it won't be. And I really talk in this live about honoring the grief in the gray, the areas of uncertainty that we have in connection to motherhood, in connection to our loved ones, in connection to our life plan, in connection to just the things that don't go the way that we think they are. I share a little bit in this around my own journey of seeing others move into the position and era in their lives of motherhood, and me having had 5 years where I have been focused on a lot of other things. And it's surprising to be in my mid-30s and to not feel ready or to not have had the impetus in the way that I thought I would. And so there's grief in that too, even though I feel very secure now in where I am in my path and who I am, and trust in how whatever my journey is with motherhood might unravel. There's a lot here. And so this Mother's Day grief flow ceremony is all about creating this space for as soon as you wake up to engage with whatever is present for you. You might be, as I say in this, you might be a mama that is excited to be celebrated or given the day off. You might be somebody celebrating your mom. That's all amazing. And there might be other grief in it for you too. And maybe you're somebody that won't be celebrating your mom because they're not here or you don't have a close relationship. Or maybe you're somebody that isn't a mom and you have your own feels and emotions and process around that. And I really am creating this grief flow ceremony specifically. All of them are such a beautiful, intimate community experience, but also this one specifically is just geared towards letting us come in the beautiful messiness of it all and meet this day and turn towards it with love and openness, and for you to receive and to receive on multiple levels and receive the guidance and the support and the processing that might be ready to happen so that you can move throughout the rest of your day with connection to all of you. That's what I pray that everything that I ever offer leads you to at the end of a session, at the end of a workshop, at the end of a grief flow ceremony or anything similar. I really pray that you are led closer to yourself through the process, and that you are in greater connection with yourself when you walk out. And so if you feel called after listening to this, or even right now, please join the Mother's Day Grief Flow. It will be an incredible moment and time together. It's going to be around 90 minutes long, but I've budgeted for 2 hours in case people feel like they need some more spaciousness to integrate before they disconnect, but you can leave at any time that you want to. It will be recorded, and if you can't make it live but would like to be able to move through the process on your own later, the recording will be available later that day, and so you can sign up and you will get that immediately when it is available. It's $33 to join, and it will be just a really, really heart-connected, body-connected, beautiful, intimate self and community time. So I also talk about the origins of the grief flow here because the grief flows, they're going to have a little bit different of a name, but they're going to be a monthly part of this membership that I've been dropping hints about. And very soon the doors to this are going to be open. Very, very soon, like within, I hope, the next week or so. And monthly grief flows, I'm going to be calling them in the membership grieve and release flows. And these flows are for our grief of people, but they're also for the grief of the pieces and parts of ourselves and our lives that shift and change as we grow and evolve and continue to be on our path of becoming and to step into more of ourselves. As we step into more of ourselves, there is inevitably conditioned parts and old parts that protected us and kept us safe and worked with us and were part of our personality that get let go of and that die off. And having integration space for being in the process of releasing that is a key piece of transformation. So I really, really am so happy to share more on the story and the origins of the grief flows, because this is going to be such an important part of what is beginning to bud in Ellie Flow land and what I'm inviting you into very soon. And I hope you receive so much from this episode, whether you connect this way to Mother's Day or not, whether you're really excited about it or not. I think Mother's Day is so beautiful. And also, I can say that as somebody that has not had their mother present for the last, this will be my 4th Mother's Day without my mom here. And it's an interesting time. It's interesting to just observe from a different place how the day is talked about in the commercial aspect and in getting gifts and flowers and all of these beautiful things and going out to restaurants. And something my mom loved to do, and I try and do every Mother's Day, is get flowers and plant them. She always wanted help with that on Mother's Day. Making breakfast in bed. I loved to do that for her. Stuff like that. Like, that's incredible. And also, once you don't have that person in your immediate life, this day can feel odd, and it can have remnants of just being like almost like you're observing a whole different world that you're not a part of anymore. And I really want to named that, and I really want to encourage us as a collective to talk about that more and have more space for that experience too. Not because the other one is good and one is bad, or one is important and the other not, but because just the simple black and white, as I talk about in this episode, isn't the full picture. And it's a really fascinating exploration when you've lost and are grieving someone, or when this day might bring up a lot of feelings very privately and intimately in inner struggles that you haven't shared with many people. So it's a really important time to just connect with all of this. And I hope you are blessed by just the shares here. And please join me for the grief flow if you feel called in any way. And just so you know, this episode has a little bit different audio because I pulled it from the video off of Instagram. It's not bad, but it's not as great as normal. And I also want to let you know that my podcast hosting company came up with this awesome new thing where if you're listening from Apple Podcasts or from the direct website page, the show notes for each episode at the top has a link that says, send me a text message. And you can now very easily text me after you listen to a message. It's anonymous, or you can sign your name, whatever, but I don't see who it's coming from. And you press the link and it pops up on your phone, and you can either send me a message about a question you have or how the episode impacted you. And to me, this is amazing. I love being in communication like this. If you want me to respond to you in some way, please put your name there so I know how to find you. But I love the simplicity of this. I love that just on your phone so quickly you can shoot a little message if you want. And I'd love to be able to answer your questions on the podcast or kind of share some of your explorations on an anonymous way and reflect on them more. So if you feel called to do that after any podcast, and you can go back and like re-listen to anything and you'll see this button. I haven't quite figured out how it works in Spotify yet, but I did see it active in Apple Podcasts, and I think in all of the other apps it should be working too. But send me a message. Let me know how this lands. Let me know that you're there listening. Let me know what's on your heart. Let me know what comes up as you listen to the podcast. Let me know what you'd love to hear more about and any questions you have. I love being able to interact with you. So if you feel called, let's do it. Okay, here is the rest of the episode. Today, I want to tell you about the Mother's Day grief flow that's happening at the end of the week, and just talk about Mother's Day and grief in general and things I've felt myself observed. The reason that I felt really called to begin this offering, it feels like maybe it will be a yearly thing, and just what I'm sensing around it, what I'm feeling around it, and invite you to join me if you feel called in any way. So on Sunday, I am leading in the morning at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, a grief flow ceremony. And in a moment, I'll share more with you about what a grief flow is, but I just want to say that I'm sharing this early in the morning on Mother's Day so that it can be something that can hold anybody experiencing grief in connection to this day. There's so many areas of grief that have come up in me and also in people that I work with, in friends, in just the way I observe others. There's so much grief around Mother's Day that's often honored in like an Instagram post by people. But in the actual day, I find that people don't really know how to engage with it unless you are taking your mom to go do something or doing something with her, which is fantastic, or you are a mom and you're being honored, which is also fantastic. So all of those things can be true, and you can still have grief. And one thing that I have found the last 3 years that my mom has not been here, but also the years of anticipatory grief before her death and just all the complicated parts of my healing process is so real on Mother's Day is one, it can kind of creep up on you if you have grief. It can feel like really like normal. Yeah, it's Mother's Day. And then on the day itself, we can wake up feeling a little bit stuffed, and when I say stuffed or like crunchy, sometimes I'm like full of emotion and needing to let it out. And the reason that I want to do this Mother's Day flow, this grief flow on the morning of Mother's Day, is to give, however you wake up in the day, space to be felt, be moved with, be experimented with, be processed, be engaged with really incredible amounts of reverence and tenderness and love and freedom, so that however you are going to move throughout the rest of your day, you can just let that flow. So whatever other emotions of celebration or grief or anything in between that could be present, no matter what they might be, whether you are engaging in a Mother's Day activity or not, whether you are being honored as a mother or not, whether you are honoring your mom or not, you can feel the relief of the release of being present with yourself and tending to yourself and tending to what's there, so that you can be present to whatever else comes afterwards. So that is the reason why it is early. And I know the people on the Pacific coast are like, it's at 7 a.m. This is something that you can literally begin while you're in your bed. So if you feel called to joining, but you're like, I'm going to be in my pajamas at 7 a.m., that's great. You can just pull the computer or pull the phone up to be able to join the call. Everything will be on Zoom. And this whole practice around like the ceremony that I've created called the grief flow ceremony, or sometimes I just call it simply grief flows, came from a sense of being in engagement with the body and allowing music to move and awaken emotion in the body through the process of just meeting our grief and trusting the arc of it in the moment. There are many arcs of grief forever. There's like, some people talk about the long arc of grief, meaning like the lifetime of grief that you will have. There are many also just arcs of it in every experience or every day that we might live. And so this is all about engaging the arc of whatever your Mother's Day related grief might look like, and allowing yourself to be in your body and guided through an emotional music supportive experience, and let your body move however it wants to be within to process what's there. So the grief flow came about because a couple falls ago, it was in autumn, I was sitting outside and I had on a Spotify Discovery playlist in my ears while I was writing, and I was doing some journaling, and this piece came on, an instrumental piece, and it was so clear to me within 5 bars of the song that the song was about loss. And so I can be a Google deep diver. Like, I love researching things like this. And so I looked up the artist and I looked up the song and the story behind it. And lo and behold, this beautiful song, which is by Tony Anderson, which will definitely be on the Grief Flow playlist for Sunday, called Ariana, is a song that he wrote for his mom, or kind of in movement with his mom's passing a couple weeks after she died. And this song just moves so much in me. And just by listening to the music, so much began to move in me. So much, just release through tears, this sense of being able to feel in the music the peace and the joy of their relationship and the mourning and missing of her, and almost angelic type spirits present in it. And it was incredibly beautiful. And I listened to that song nonstop for weeks. And then I slowly started exploring more songs and more instrumental pieces, and realized that the way that music can really speak to and connect us with our grief, because grief in the energetic sense can't be put into words a lot of the time. And so the power of just coming to music and letting my body move however it wanted to, and then through that through a couple songs through the playlist, then realizing, okay, now I want to write. Now I want to paint. I've had people paint. I've had people go change license plates on their cars during these grief flows. Like, there's this natural process that happens where first we're cultivated to be totally in connection with the way that grief is moving in and around us, and the music helps activate and connect us in those ways. And then there's also this beautiful, in the arc of the experience, this beautiful portal that we get to walk through when we're doing this, where there's an opening that happens. And oftentimes a new layer of expression is ready to come forward in our grief. Sometimes it might be sobbing and tears. Sometimes it might be literally just twinkles of tears down your cheeks. Sometimes it's in journaling or creating art or moving the body a lot. And so now when I lead these grief flows, I used to lead myself through them for like the whole second half of the first year after my mom died. And then when I started offering them publicly and in workshops and things, I now lead us into the experience with a really connective and gentle self-inquiry based meditation. It's guiding you to connect with your body, and then also to connect with grief in and around you and noticing what's there. I will offer space for us to kind of connect with anyone that has passed that you want to kind of call into presence, or anyone that you don't feel connected to in the physical that you would like to call into the space with you. And then as I feel like we're ready, I'll hit play on a playlist that I'm already building. Every time I lead a flow like this, I work on the playlist for about a week beforehand to get it just right. And the playlist is set up to just perfectly meet us in that moment of meditation. And it's all instrumental. Maybe there's some humming and oohs that can come out in the music. And then I will give you really gentle, intuitive guidance on what might feel good. But my bottom line recommendation when we do a grief flow is that you sit there or lay there until you feel like your body wants to do something. And for some people, maybe the entire time they're just going to lay on the ground, but they're going to feel called to just move their fingers like this. And for other people, they're going to very quickly feel called up to be engaging with their body. And I'm usually somewhere in between when I'm leading. I'm not on my feet as much because I want to be holding the space for you and guiding you and just tuning into what everybody is doing. But I also am moving with myself, right? And so there's this incredible variety, and no experience is the same. Every time I've done this, I feel called to different things. It's simply an experience of allowing the music to it's almost like an internal bath, an internal, really warm, sweet, soothing bath for the places that have either been cut off from letting the grief flow, or places that are really grieving and needing some of that soothing. And getting to move that through the body is very, very, very powerful. It's extremely liberating. You may feel excited and energized afterwards and kind of like relieved in a new level of, woo, okay, now I'm actually feeling open and connected and ready for the day. And you may feel tired and like you're connected with new parts of yourself or new parts of your emotional path. And the sun is coming out after a very, very stormy day. That is beautiful. You may feel tired and just like you need to integrate for a few moments. But no matter what, everyone walks out of these grief flows, whether this one is virtual, but whether it be in person or not, with just this sense of gentle awe of, wow, something happened, something moved in me. And we will listen as the music kind of winds down. We will listen for any messages that are there for you and anything that is just ready to be kind of wisdom that is ready to be collected for you to guide you on your day. All sorts of messages come through for people. And sometimes I receive them that I just kind of share with whomever is there as well in case they're for them. And then we'll have a very, very, very gentle and slow movement out of the movement part of it so that You can write a little bit, you can integrate. Again, I guide all of this, and it is very natural for the participants. It seems maybe like there's a lot of steps or a lot of things to think about when I'm explaining it all in words, but it's actually extremely natural once we're doing it, and it's all very intuitively led, and so it just flows. That's why it's called the grief flow. It just flows perfectly and beautifully. And as we kind of wind out of the intimate inner space, we will come back to a space where we can just sit in circle for a moment and offer space to any witnessing that wants to happen and anything that wants to be talked about. The last time I led one of these, a topic that we kind of explored a little bit more in the end of it was anger and how anger connects with grief, and just noticing where that might be in our bodies, and really somatically just being in awareness around that. Every time it's different. So I get to be in the joyous mystery of just seeing what unfolds along with you. And I know that there's something so beautiful for each person, and you get to be the leader of your experience, and your body gets to be the leader of your experience. And then other parts of you get to massively receive. Sometimes the music just allows us to be focused on something with a soft focus and be receiving. And there is this incredibly calming, warm energy that comes from that. So that's kind of what a grief flow is, how I created it, and why we're doing it. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about all of the grief that there can be around Mother's Day, whether you are a mother, whether you've lost a mother, whether you have lost a child, whether you have disconnection from your mother or your child, but they're still alive. And also just all of the parts of being somebody that might consider mothering and might be going through a fertility journey, might be thinking about being a mom. And I wanted to share a little bit more about my experience with that. So I've obviously said earlier on about how when we are grieving somebody or arriving to Mother's Day, sometimes it can just feel like another day until the day arrives, and it can feel heavy or crunchy or just blah, or there can be a lot of emotions that we don't really know what to do with or where to go with. And I have definitely felt that some Mother's Days. There's other Mother's Days where it didn't feel that much, so I never really know what to expect. But I will share with you more that while that has been a big part of missing my mom and knowing what to do on days like this, I've also in the past few years been in my own really fascinating exploration of motherhood and of being more ready now than I was, and I'm already 35, and I never thought I would be the age that I am and not be a mom yet. And to have been moving through the last 5 years of my life, which have been tremendously powerful and incredible and also extremely painful in many moments. I have also had so many moments of grief around witnessing others just kind of moving into a stage of life that I'm not ready for, witnessing life unfold in the ways that I didn't think it would or wouldn't expect and just wish were different. And around motherhood, being in the place of being 35 and wondering, how this will unfold for me, and that things haven't happened in certain ways yet. And there's a lot of energy around Mother's Day that it's very defined. You have a mom or you are a mom, awesome, you're celebrated. And I think that's so beautiful. And then there's a lot of nuance that isn't really mentioned, as I talked about earlier. And so this space that I felt really called to offer and create right now, and to begin potentially as an annual thing, is just letting all of the gray be there. Letting ourselves move with whatever the weirdness is that we feel. And I don't think grief is weird, but sometimes we think our own feelings around things are weird. And so letting whatever you feel be present that day, letting whatever is happening for you, whether it be an extremely private thing that you're never going to talk about to anybody else, but you can be silent and move in your body with it that day, or whether it's something that you would like to share in community or that you have talked about or that you've been going through for a long time and a lot of people know about. Letting your entire expression just be free for those 2 hours of that day to be engaged with. And so I have also worked with people that are on fertility or adoption journeys. I have worked with people and I have a few friends that are in anticipation of losing their moms. I have worked with people that are even in just this weird transition, and I've observed this in my friends too, of they become moms and they love it, and it also isn't what they thought it would be. And there's grief in that too. And I love to honor the grief in the gray. I love to honor the grief in the places where we don't think about it or we don't even realize it is grief sometimes. And I love to honor and name the grief of simply wanting something to be one way and it not being that way, or wishing things were different, or wishing things would have unfolded in another way, or wondering why something hasn't happened for you yet, and being in the tension of that moment. And where there is tension and where we are embracing uncertainty, usually there is the wisdom of grief, and grief offers us wisdom in those places when we allow ourselves to open to it. So I could go on and on and on about just all the gray pieces and surprising and hidden places of grief on Mother's Day, and how, in my experience, there isn't, except for very, very specific things, there isn't as much conversation beyond just a post on Instagram of how we can engage with that in our lives and within ourselves. And I see that as a place that we get to have now. And it's time to create that. And it's time to be in community together in that. And it's time to honor that. And it's time to let grief be part of our joyous days and let grief be part of our painful days. And I really want to emphasize that if you are a mom that's going to be celebrated, but you have your own connection or sense of grief around Mother's Day for any reason, whether you understand it or not, whether it makes logical sense or not, whether anybody else knows about it or not, I really want this to be a space where you can come and be, and it will be a space where you can come and be and let all of that be there. And then you can also exit and live your day very fully, and almost even more fully, because of how much you honored yourself. And if you have kiddos and you want to be part of this grief flow, please, if you have available support, whether it be through a partner or somebody that can watch your kids for 2 hours, come join us and then let them celebrate you for the rest of the day. If you are somebody that is going to be celebrated by your kiddos and they're older, or if you're somebody that's going to celebrate your mom, invite them to join you. There is probably pain, grief, and hidden emotion in everybody around our mothering relationships, around the planet. There's so much pain and grief present in the experience of being in just the collective experience right now. And so really, if you feel called in any way to this event, I invite you in. I invite you to see what will unfold for you. I invite you to just come with an open heart and let the music move you. And I will be there to guide you and to facilitate this. And you can really follow the beat of your own pulse. Bring a journal, bring something warm to drink. I love to recommend people, I have my blanket here. I love to recommend people bring a blanket to wrap themselves up in and to really feel the container of being held and supported in this experience. I'm going to have a candle. Just find a place that feels really sweet for you to sink into and really honoring. Wherever that space might be in your house. I've had people join from their cars before. You can join from a park, wherever you feel comfortable to just let yourself be and to be present with everything that might be stirring. So if you have questions, please leave them in a comment or send me a DM or reach out in any way. If you're ready to join, I always move energy by by little burps. So here we are. You can join via the link in my bio or on my website, ellieflow.com. It is $33 to join. If you have multiple people in your household that want to join, just pay for one and you can all come. Just really see maybe what feels most supportive for you around this. And if you would like to do it alone, or if there's other people in your household you'd like to invite, feel free to do that. And what else? It will be at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific. Come in comfy clothes, come in your PJs, come with headphones if you want to. And it's just going to be a time to meet whatever is there. And that is the juiciness of all of my work. It's like my pride and joy to just meet and create space to be with whatever's there. And if it's joy and really doesn't make sense within the context of grief, that's okay too. And my guess is that there often is some deep emotion that wants to stir. And then once it's released, there might be other things to be felt and known. So I am so just honored to hold this space for you, honored to move and grieve with you. I will be in my own grief process. And there's something that one of my mentors, my deep transformational coaching mentor, Leon Vanderpolt, says. He's like, everyone gets to receive in these things. I get to receive by being with you and leading you. I also get to receive by just moving in my own process that day. You get to receive by being part of it. And if there is non-Mother's Day related grief that you have present that you would like to bring, it's all welcome. I think that's all for today. Let me check my notes to make sure. Oh, it will be recorded. If you cannot join in the morning, but you would like to go through the experience later in the day, you can absolutely do that. And it can be recorded, or it will be recorded. And once you've signed up, even if you can't make it live, you will get a copy of the recording as soon as it's processed so that you can move with it later that day or the next day. Yeah, that is all. Thank you for just being here, watching, engaging, for being part of all things Ellie Flow. There's so much beauty that's unfolding in the next weeks and months, and I'm really happy to just open the space and open this new season by hosting and facilitating this Mother's Day Grief Flow. Please let me know of any questions you might have, and I am excited to connect with you and really, really honored to support you and be in process with you on Mother's Day this year, however that might be feeling for you. Thank you so much for listening to The Fountain. Please take a moment to rate and review the show and to send it along to a friend that comes to heart or mind. I'd also love to hear what came up for you and your experience listening to the most recent episodes. So reach out via your podcast app or send me an email. And if you'd like to book your first session or explore working together more, find me at ellieflow.com.